Body of Water, written and read by Rachel C.C. Matteri.
Something is wrong with my body. In my body, outside of my body, just all over. I'm sitting in class, the band of my plaid jumpers pushing into my swollen child's stomach. Something is in there that pushes against this band. I look around. I look for other bodies in this dress I wear. I look at their faces to see if they too are full of dirt and filth that pushes this skin, this blue and green band away, away, away. They look calm. They look curious about learning cursive and multiplication. The only thing I want is out of this dress. Trauma. It is held in the body like a glass of water. It holds, it pours, it spills. I clean it up. When I was a kid, I went to a tiny private Catholic school that was run by a few teachers, a group of nuns, and a priest. I was in 3rd grade or so. One day I was sick, but not sick enough to stay home. My mom could be a stickler about missing school unless I had a fever. She helped me into my ugly dress uniform and out the door. I had diarrhea, not in my dress, but in the girls' bathroom. I was late to lunch, and lunch was a strict time at this school. The nun yelled at me in front of the whole school, which was 50 people at most. She made me sit the bench for the entire recess period. I clenched and tried not to shit my dress. I didn't. I watched my classmates pretend to be dinosaurs and swing upside down by their knees on the high bars. My parents weren't happy about this story that night, even though they also felt a little responsible for sending me to school unwell. The nun felt some type of guilt, or at least an obligation. I got a nervous apology the next day paired with a, "Why didn't you say something?" Diarrhea isn't always something you want to announce to the world. There was an atlas painted on the ground in the courtyard where we had lunch when it wasn't raining. 25 years ago, Humboldt was full of rain. Wet socks and soggy sneakers were part of my somatic childhood experience. Humboldt was so wet back then, there was a moat around the schoolyard. Not like a fortress, but a divot in the farmland soil that caught water. It followed the lot line that was only separated from cow fields by a barbed wire fence. The moat traced this fence in a straight line across the far end of the schoolyard. We called this little river the Mississippi. Kids would fall in periodically. It was such a common occurrence that there was a school protocol. Little boys with drenched navy blue pants and "We've Got Spirit" Catholic school shirts and little girls in plaid jumpers with tightly tucked white blouses would stagger as if wearing a full diaper across the giant cement courtyard, into the lunch yard, past the flat painted atlas, and into the principal's office. The secretary would open a trunk that was filled with lost and found clothing items. There was shame and excitement about the contents of this box. Even though we were all tiny, somehow everything that ended up in the box was about 4 sizes too big for whoever met their watery fate that day. Sometimes we would walk into the water on purpose when no one was looking just to experience the box, just to get out of the cloth we wrapped ourselves in for class. It was one of the only times girls were permitted to wear boys' clothes or baggy clothes. In the transitions of our daily rituals, we formed lines, parallel, to enter the classroom, to walk to confession. This was sometimes difficult because we were all fluid. We were all water in a glass on an uneven desk. We went everywhere. They tried to give us something solid to capture ourselves with, but we always spilled over. There is too much water inside, not for this school, no. Just jumpers, just skirts, just boys like this and girls like this, just separate like this, just the same, like a glass of water, like a river in a classroom. I sit in my bind of pleats and collars and I learn to hold my breath here. Move all the water up through my body, above me, and to the sides. I see my water outside and everywhere else but in. I am sometimes scared here and my mouth is dry. The boys called Jessie and I lesbians once for holding hands in line. We looked at each other. In unison, we chanted, "No, we aren't." We kept holding hands. I didn't know what a lesbian was, but I figured that it was something bad and that I probably didn't want to be one. We liked to play too close to the edge, skipping, making up our songs, and telling the stories of our future. We planned our caravan life of animal rescue where Jessie and I would pick up stray animals and bring them back to health with no veterinary training. Miracles. like the ones we learned about in church. She and I would live together with our pets. We learned to live in fantasy. We learned that the only way to be free was to submerge yourself in the muddy waters that were pushed to the periphery of the atlas-painted courtyard. We learned that we could briefly move our bodies freely in shameful spaces. We learned that our bodies were upsetting to adults and that these ironed uniforms protected them for 7 hours a day from everything inside us. We learned to lie in graceful webs to others and to speak to each other with our eyes in coded songs and inside jokes. Jesse and I held hands and edged each other closer to the water. We christened our small black sneakers and the tips of our pleats. This blessing was for us. Our folded fingers touched the Mississippi. It was stagnant and iridescent with swirls of cow pies and tractor diesel. This is where we came to feel clean. This is where we came to feel holy.